Good day. In a few days, a summit meeting is due to take place between President Putin of Russia and President of the United States, Joe Biden, in Geneva. Specifically, this will be on 16th June 2021. In advance of this summit meeting, there have been a whole series of statements, both from the Chinese and from the Russians, that if the United States and President Biden intend to try to cause or create differences between China and Russia at this summit meeting, then that project will fail. We have now had a long interview granted to Global Times, the English language newspaper owned by the People's Daily, which is the official organ of the Chinese Communist Party, an interview given by Andrei Denisov, who is Russia's ambassador to China and a pivotally important person, therefore, in Chinese-Russian interactions, which is clearly intended to set out, both for the United States and the world, the reality of the strength of Chinese-Russian ties. Moreover, and specifically, Denisov has confirmed in that interview that which all of us who follow these things closely would already have worked out, which is that if the United States, if President Biden brings up the topic of China and Russia's relations with China at the summit, then the Russians will brief the Chinese on all points discussed between them and the Americans. Now, this is such an interesting and important interview that I'm going to read out the entire Global Times account of it. And it is as follows. Russia does not expect impossible outcomes from the upcoming summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Joe Biden in Geneva, and the two sides are unlikely to resolve important issues at the meeting, Russian Ambassador to China Andrei Denisov told Global Times in an exclusive interview. The ambassador noted that if the two leaders talk about issues related to China during their meeting, Russia will discuss them with the Chinese side. He stressed that Russia-China relations will not change no matter what attitude the US takes towards Russia. Some analysts believe that during their first bilateral meeting, Biden and Putin will discuss topics including strategic stability, disarmament, ecology, the pandemic, and conflicts in hot spots. Denisov told Global Times that Russia welcomes any measures that reduce tensions and competition, but that the Russians are also very cautious about what they can expect from Russian-American relations, especially in the context of the very tense relationship between the two countries. He said Russia is a realist and does not expect impossible outcomes, and the summit is not likely to resolve important issues between the two countries. A better outcome is one that sets conditions for resolving problems in the future. Media reports show that while the upcoming summit is seen by some analysts as an ice-breaking opportunity to reshape U.S. Russia relations, the two sides have been talking tough to each other and sending signals to lower external expectations ahead of the summit. Biden vowed to be tough with Russia and press it on human rights, whilst Putin said that he does not expect any breakthroughs from his meeting with his US counterpart. Some analysts pointed out that whilst it will be hard to break the ice in US-Russia relations, the US should stabilize relations and ease tensions with Russia so as to concentrate on dealing with China. As a result, the Geneva meeting may become an opportunity to lobby Russia. In response to this view, Denisov told Global Times that the idea that Russia would alienate China over the possibility of the US temporarily easing tensions with China is very short-sighted. Russia is smarter than Americans think, he said. And that's, I think, actually a good summary of the position at the present time. The Russians know perfectly well that the only reason that the United States is talking with them seriously at this time is because Russia is now in de facto alliance with China, which the United States sees as its major challenger and competitor. For the US, that makes it imperative, given the enormous growth of Chinese power, to come to some kind of strategic relationship with Russia in Europe in order that it can refocus its energies on China. However, the very fact gives the Russians an added incentive to strengthen their relationship with Beijing. If the Russians were to draw away from China at this time, if they were in effect to isolate themselves from China, then the United States would have no reason to take them seriously, and we would not be seeing summit meetings like the one that is about to happen in Geneva. The United States would at that point be free to pick off the Russians and the Chinese at leisure as it suited it. So, the very fact that the Americans are now making overtures to Russia is for Russia at this point in time an added reason to strengthen their relationship with China, not weaken it. I would add that the same dynamic also applies to Chinese-US relations, though obviously to a lesser degree, China being the stronger power. Specifically, the Chinese also know that one of the reasons that the United States has suddenly become so alarmed by the scale of the challenge it is facing in the Pacific is because it has suddenly dawned on the United States that with Russia at its back, China is able to focus all its energies on the Pacific in a way that the United States at the present time cannot do. As a diplomat from a Black Sea power, probably Romanian, recently told Washington Examiner, Russia is able to play a grand strategic chess game in one place, that is to say, in Europe. China also, as that diplomat did not say, can also play a grand strategic chess game in one place, which is the West Pacific. The United States, by contrast, is distracted because it has to play chess on multiple different chessboards in different places. Both the Chinese and the Russians understand this, and they're not going to give away the advantage that this gives them. So, there is no prospect whatsoever that the summit meeting between Putin and Biden is going to achieve any kind of rift between China and Russia. If that is the US plan, it has already failed. And to be straightforward, to my mind, that already takes away, from a US point of view, the major purpose of the summit meeting. Admittedly, the US will have to try, or at least will try, to reduce tensions with Russia in Europe to at least some degree. Its problem, as has become very clear over the last couple of weeks, is that it is simply not prepared or is not capable of making the key concessions that the Russians are looking for in order to achieve a true breakthrough in relations. Above all, the United States doesn't seem to be able to take the necessary steps to achieve a real resolution of the crisis in Ukraine, which would require persuading Ukraine to talk directly to the leaders of the two breakaway republics of the Donbass, of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, as the Russians insist and as is set out in the Minsk Agreement, which Ukraine signed up to in February 2015. In the absence of that step, the crisis in Ukraine will continue, and for so long as the crisis in Ukraine continues, a genuine improvement in relations between Russia and the United States is impossible. I strongly suspect that the Russians are going to point that out to Biden when they meet with him in Geneva in a few days. And of course, Russian spokesmen, notably Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, have been saying this repeatedly in various comments and public interviews which they have been giving. However, it is clear that whilst the United States is prepared at the moment to downplay its relations with Ukraine, to try and take steps to give them lesser priority, the administration is simply not prepared to face the storm of criticism in the United States and from some of its European allies, which it would face if it took that portentous step with respect to Ukraine. In the early 1970s, Richard Nixon, when he went to Beijing, was prepared to take or make big moves with respect to US support for Taiwan. Biden is not prepared to do the same with respect to US support for Ukraine. In the absence of these steps, of such steps on the Ukraine issue, as Putin has recently said, and as Andrei Denisov, the Russian ambassador, has confirmed in this interview with Global Times, there is no real prospect of any significant breakthrough in Russia-US relations, whether at this summit or in any other venue. On the contrary, the probability is, as the Russians have been busy signaling, that after a brief pause of seeming stabilization, the downward spiral in relations will again resume. As for relations between Russia and China, my own view is that even if there is some sort of rapprochement with the United States in Europe between the Russians and the Americans, a significant distancing of Russia from China is now impossible. I come back to the point that I made at the start of this video, which is that the Russians are gaining so much diplomatic leverage as against the United States from their de facto alliance with China, that it is simply not in their interests at this moment in time for them to distance themselves from China in any significant way, or for them to take any step that would weaken that de facto alliance. And as I said, this long interview which Andrei Denisov has given to Global Times, in effect, sets that out. I will finish with the last paragraph of the Global Times article, which sets out Denisov's words. Denisov said that during the visit of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to China and the visit of Yang Jiechi, a member of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee and director of the Office of the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Chinese Communist Party Central Committee to Russia, both sides discussed US topics. If the US and China talk about issues related to China during the upcoming summit, the Russian side will communicate and discuss this with China. So there we are. The Russians have already coordinated their positions at the summit with Biden, with the Chinese. And when the topic of China is brought up at the summit meeting by the Americans, as it will be, the Russians will brief the Chinese on everything that is said. So far from being kept out of the loop, the Chinese will be there, hovering at the table as Biden and Putin speak to each other, briefed by the Russians, both in advance and following the summit, and fully aware of everything that is said. The Russians, through their ambassador, are communicating this fact, obviously to the Chinese, but also to the world and to the United States in particular. The Russian-Chinese alliance at the moment is unbreakable, and it is the greatest single factor in world affairs. Thank you for joining me for this program. I look forward to you joining me in future programs on this channel. Please also remember to check out our main channel, the Duran, where I do programs with my colleague and friend Alex Christoforou. Please also check out Alex's channel. You'll find links under this video. Please also check us out on our other platforms, BitChute, Odyssey, SuperU, and Locals. And please also, to the extent that you can, support us via PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar. You'll find links under this video. And please also remember to go to our Discord server and, of course, check out our shop. Look up the amazing things we have there, our famous magic mugs, our t-shirts, our sweatshirts, our hats, our hoodies, and our magic mugs and all the rest. Lastly, please check your subscription to this channel and please press the like button if you like this video. And thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to you joining me in future programs on this channel, and have a wonderful day.